With high vaccination rates, over 1 million jobs created, children back in school, and businesses across the country reopening, the time has come to adapt support measures to these new and improved circumstances. That's why in October, our government announced a pivot from the broad-based support that was appropriate at the height of lockdowns to more targeted support that will provide help where it is still needed, while also prudently and carefully managing government spending. And that's why today, just this afternoon, I introduced legislation in Parliament to deliver this more targeted support. Le projet de loi C2 nous
Bill
permet
C2 will allow us to move forward while keeping in mind that the recovery is still uneven and that the public health measures that allow us to save lives continue to restrict certain economic activities. Among the measures laid out in the bill is the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, which is a new income benefit that takes into account the public health situation and the fact that it remains uncertain and unpredictable. This benefit would give $300 per week to workers who are directly affected by a local lockdown order related to COVID-19. We are taking this measure because we want to ensure that nobody is abandoned, including vulnerable workers who, against their own will, may not be able to work. This bill also proposes to extend until May 7th, 2022, the eligibility to the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, as well as the benefit for caregiving.
Bill C2 is designed with an understanding that our economic recovery is still uneven and that the public health measures that are saving lives continue to restrict some economic activity. Among the bill's measures is a new income benefit, which recognizes that the public health situation continues to be uncertain and unpredictable. The Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. It will provide $300 a week to workers who are directly affected by a COVID-19 related local lockdown and will be available to eligible workers retroactively to October 24th and through to May 7, 2022. The bill also proposes to extend eligibility for both the Canada Sickness Benefit and the Canada Caregiving Benefit until May 7, 2022, and increase the maximum duration of each benefit by 2 additional weeks. And we want to make sure that businesses can continue to grow and recover and drive up Canada's labour force participation rates and our level of employment. That's why we're proposing to extend the Canada Recovery Hiring Program until May 7th, 2022, and increase the rate of support to 50%. This will encourage businesses to hire back workers, increase workers' hours, and create new jobs. We also know that there are some businesses that have been most deeply affected by the pandemic and that continue to face significant pandemic-related challenges.
The new tourism and hospitality recovery program will give employers such as hotels, restaurants, travel agencies, and tour operators wage subsidies and rent subsidies up to 75%. The bill includes details on the types of businesses that would be eligible for this program. We also published a backgrounder today to provide details to businesses.
For businesses in all sectors, the hardest hit business recovery program will provide support through wage and rent subsidies to employers who have experienced deep and enduring losses during the pandemic with a subsidy rate of up to 50%. The local lockdown program will be there to provide employers facing temporary new local lockdowns with a subsidy rate of up to 75% through the wage and rent subsidy programs. This is really important because it will ensure that local authorities and public health officials can continue to make the right public health choices, knowing that the support will be there for workers and businesses. And we will continue to have measures in place such that any publicly listed corporation that chooses to increase executive pay while receiving government support will have the wage subsidy support clawed back. We estimate the total cost of the measures in the bill will be approximately $7.4 billion. This is a meaningful and intentional fiscal pivot. The broad-based set of support measures, which we introduced at the height of the pandemic and which came to an end on October 23rd, had an estimated cost of $289 billion. Fighting COVID and the subsequent lockdowns we put in place to save lives required unprecedented government spending in Canada and around the world. Canadians supported that extraordinary spending because they understood that it was not only the compassionate thing to do, it was the right thing to do economically. As of last month, Canada has recovered 101% of the jobs lost to the COVID recession, compared to just 81% of jobs recovered in the United States. And today, there are more active businesses in Canada than there were before the pandemic hit. Thanks in large part to our government's support measures, we have avoided the sort of deep economic scarring that followed the 2008 recession and that would have done permanent damage to our economy. Le projet de loi C2 nous permettra
Bill
de
C2
continuer à être
will allow us to
pour les
continue to
Canadiens et
be there
Canadiennes,
for
tout en
Canadians
offrant un soutien plus
while
ciblé
allowing us to provide a more targeted support and continue to prudently manage public finances. I hope that all members of Parliament will vote for this bill so that Canadians who need support can access that support as quickly as possible.
Finally, I just want to reiterate and emphasize as forcefully as possible that the single most important economic policy for Canada continues to be to make sure everyone who can get vaccinated does get vaccinated. We have one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, with nearly 89% of Canadians 12 and older having received at least one dose. And we have the second lowest mortality rate in the G7. Children between 5 and 11 have started getting vaccinated this week. That is wonderful news. And many of our parents and grandparents are now getting their third booster shot. And speaking as a daughter, I can say what a relief that is. And I think that's true for a lot of Canadians. Let's really work hard to be sure everyone gets the vaccines they're eligible for. Speaking as Canada's finance minister, it is so important for us to do that, not only for our health, but also for our economy. As a country, we can be proud of how we've come together to fight COVID-19. Our battle is not quite finished yet, but we're getting there. The measures in this legislation introduced today are an important part of what we need to do to get the job done.